Hey, friends, and welcome to season 2 of the Lucy Smiles Living Room podcast. I am your host, Diane Lozo, also known as Lucy Smiles, and I am so honored and excited to launch season 2 of the Lucy Smiles Living Room podcast, where we really go deep into conversations with those that are following the magic that ignites their inner essence. And I couldn't be more pleased and excited to introduce you to my first guest of the season for episode 1 of season 2. Cynthia Reedy is a friend of mine who I met at a beautiful event back in the summer of 2024. So we haven't even known each other for a year, and our hearts have connected so deeply. I thought it would be a beautiful opportunity to share Cynthia's story. And it is just so powerful when we can sit in authenticity and vulnerability and share from our hearts, our journeys that allow other people to bring about change and reflection in their own life. So, Cynthia Reedy is passionate around personal development. She has been overcoming her challenges through low self esteem, marked by ineffective communication, some childhood traumas, which many of us, if not all of us, have at some extreme or another. And she has been inspired by the likes of Wayne Dyer, Joe Dispenza, Marianne Williamson, and she believes in the power of transformation and encouraging others to break free from those limiting beliefs, which is exactly in alignment with me and the podcast, and really helping other people to thrive and really break through the barriers. She is a proponent of children's empowerment. She fosters a respectful and very supportive relationship with her two sons. She also has created, as an entrepreneur, Studio 44, her hair design salon, which was a Zen salon offering more than just hair services. But she is also, since relocating to California, transitioned into coaching and has become a certified empath life coach, and also has launched her new company, synergy44.com, which provides organic products. It works along the line with her music. She also offers this beautiful jewelry as an artist. And with a degree in communication and a background in personal development workshops, Cynthia offers compassionate coaching for self-empowerment. And in her free time, she also expresses her creativity through her arts, through her music, and also enjoys spending time in nature and with her beloved husband of 21 years. So I hope that you enjoyed this beautiful first conversation of the Lucy Smiles Living Room season 2. And if any of this speaks to your heart, I would be honored and delighted if you could share this conversation and the conversations that we are going to be having for the next season. So I hope you enjoy. Hey everyone, welcome to Lucy Smiles Living Room podcast. This is season 2, episode 1, and I could not be more excited to be sitting with my gorgeous spiritual sister and dear friend, Cynthia Reedy. Cynthia, it's so great to have you on the show as we kick off season 2 of the Lucy Smiles Living Room podcast.
Oh, it's so good to be here with you, and I'm so excited for your season 2. What an honor to be presented in the beginning. It's great. Thanks.
I'm so excited. And so I did send, a beautiful greeting of your bio. And as I was sharing the bio with my guests before getting on the episode today too, I just thought there's so much depth and just magic that exudes from you, Cynthia. And it's interesting because as I was looking at the date today, it's mid-February. It hasn't been a year since we've known each other, but I feel like with all of the experiences that we've shared with each other and the experiences that we've had together, not to mention how we met, it's just been a beautiful journey and path. And so I just wanted to say that I'm so honored to have this opportunity to share your shine with the world. And I'm excited for however this conversation, organic and authentic, is meant to unfold for us. I know that, as I've been having guests on my show in, season 1, a lot of times there's a lot of healing that takes place for both the guest and me. And it's just such a beautiful opportunity to be able to take private connections and private friendships and be able to showcase it with other people, because I do believe that what we are experiencing and what we share maybe behind closed doors, on the phone, there's so many messages out there that when other people get to hear what we're having conversations about, it gives them an opportunity to feel not alone. And there's
Mhm.
sometimes there are things that we're going through that when we hear other people's stories, even if it's not the same story, even if it is just a version of what they're going through, a lot of times there's parts of that that our heart gets little flutters and say, wow, I'm not alone. And
Mm.
so I'm excited to have you here. I am just thrilled that we could spend a Sunday morning together. And I would love to start off because I know obviously you're a business owner and I love the name of your company, Synergy 44. Tell me
Mhm.
and tell the audience, maybe we could start there and where all this came about for you in your own journey.
Oh, this current business that I'm in, and the name is kind of second second version of a, name. My first business was a Studio 44 hair design, and people said, "Why did you use 44 in there?" And, I mean, there's a whole story about how that whole salon opened up, which I was very magical, and I think very, could be very meaningful to a lot of people who are just about ready to embark on something new, but intimidated to do. Um, I'd love to share a little bit more about that, and the courage it took to open up a salon on my own. It was very challenging in the beginning, but the numbers 4 are guidance and protection, and they just kept showing up in my life like nobody's business. I have, and actually it started when, I married my husband. We had 4s showing up on our honeymoon, on the phone, in the middle of the night, our mortgage, everything was 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4. So, that's partly why it's called Synergy 44, because I took this current business that I'm in, is like a next evolution of the salon, and, it encompasses coaching and, creative jewelry making and, selling of, really high quality salon products. But to back it up a little bit, um, this is coming through to me. I worked for someone else in a salon for a couple years, and I was managing this wonderful salon in an old, Victorian building in downtown Ann Arbor, Michigan. That was like a big step up for me to take on that challenge. And I was doing very well, supported by the owner. Um, we actually, there was another co-owner or co-manager working with me, and we didn't gel. And I think there were some insecurities going on, and she didn't have a clientele, and I did. I tried everything to help her, but I just kept feeling undermined, and it was heartbreaking to not be able to reach her and understand what was happening. But that was a lesson for me, and it was also a nudge, because eventually I wasn't going to be able to tolerate the interactions anymore, and it forced me, literally did force me to say, I have to leave. I have to do something different.
Mm,
And I kept getting the nudge. I got the nudge on 1111, and it said, get out and open your own business. And I
mhm,
was like, it was the last thing I wanted to do, because I didn't have the courage or the faith fully in myself. And
mm,
yet everything lined up to show, and everyone was saying, you would rock this thing. So I took the leap and I did it. And, when I was setting up this new salon, it was interesting too, because I didn't know I was going to be talking so much about numbers today, but I'd go to get a quote for a new salon chair or shelving, and the 4s kept showing up. And anything that had the 4s in the quote, I'd like, I'll have that and I'll have that. I just trusted it, and the 4s led me, which is really cool.
yeah.
Long to short of it, I created a small Zen salon in downtown Ann Arbor. Um, I found this old Art Deco building, and I had seen another stylist take a small, like, it was about 500 square feet, small. I just wanted 2 chairs myself, and I created this Zen studio that kind of was all about me. For once in my life, it was going to be my creation. I wasn't gonna didn't need to share it with anyone or get permission. It was all about me expressing my creativity, similar to what you're doing with your podcast.
Mm,
And it was scary, but it turned out to be such a great experience, and a beautiful salon that people love to come to. And the ironic thing was that I already had a really good, solid clientele for years, and I was very proud of that and built lovely relationships. And what happened was, as soon as I left that salon, I got a phone call from the local paper. It was called Crazy Wisdom. It was kind of like
Oh,
a not a it was a metaphysical shop, and they had a magazine, and people were featured on this magazine for up to 4 months with their business. I ended up on the front cover of that thing. Unbeknown, I didn't even reach out to anyone and just landed. Someone nominated me as a hair healer of Ann Arbor because
wow.
they said that they liked the way I treated people, and there were 3 others that were gonna be in there, so there was gonna be 4 of us. So the 4 of us ended up on the front cover, and it just blew up my business. So really where this is leading me is that I was so afraid I was annoyed by this woman, afraid to leave, afraid to start, and then watch is one of those things we read about in other people that you just, I never thought this would happen.
Wow.
And then it took me to a whole next level, which was also challenging. But it was a really good lesson for me to push past my limits
Mhm.
and to trust, and then watch myself be guided by the force and then by the magazine. And I was like,
Yeah.
wow. But I have to tell you, it was really also challenging to step up and then handle it.
Well, it's so funny because thank you for sharing that. It's so timely. You're gonna love this. So as you're sharing this story, and you and I know because we've chatted since we met in June, I'll get there in a minute. And we always have these timely things, even from at the end of one of our conversations, you saying, "Oh, I'm going to be going on a cruise," and I find out you're coming to Mazatlan, so we get to see each other for a full day together. And the reason why I'm sharing this is that when you really follow the messages, one thing that you just shared, I have to tie all this together, I promise. So you said you couldn't reach her about this woman. So you realized that you couldn't reach her. And when I hear you say that, I was like, oh my gosh, that's it. When we're not on the same frequency, we can't reach, like, it's almost like trying to pick up the phone and reach someone, the other line doesn't is not on the same frequency to answer. So when you said that, there was kind of a lightness in it, even though it was a staticky type of experience you're going through. But when you said I couldn't reach her, I felt a space of surrender for you. We're like, okay, I'm not supposed to reach her.
Mm-hmm.
And this is interesting. So I have to tell the audience. So Cynthia and I met in the lineup at the Glendale, California event with Kyle Cease, and that is how we met. So we were definitely reaching each other in the lineup, and we had since the first part of the lineup built a family of people who we are still in touch with at the Big One event in Kyle Cease back in June. And I know that you've drawn inspiration from Kyle Cease, Joe Dispenza, also Debbie Ford, who I loved, and know
Oh,
about her. I read her book,
oh,
Why Good People Do Bad Things. I think it is. Maybe that's not the name of the title.
yeah, yeah. There's some, yeah. She has a
Yeah,
number of them. That was one of them. Mm-hmm.
amazing, right? Like, and as we met at Kyle C's, the ironic thing is last night I was going to sleep and I was like, I'm just going to watch one more thing. So I put on YouTube and Kyle had a 12-minute wonderful message, and it reiterates what you just said. And so I don't know if you've watched it. It's called Connection versus Expansion. And I'm like, okay, connection versus expansion. So I spent 12 minutes last night just before bed marinating in Kyle. I'll have to hashtag Kyle sees. And he was talking about, do we stay in connection with people because it's comfortable, even though it's our old self, because we're not ready to expand. So the connection sometimes, again, if it's expansive, wonderful. But he was explaining, like, sometimes there's like coworkers or relationships or people or things or those, insert so and so here, that we stay because we want that connection because we're attached to it. And so you literally, for me, as I'm hearing your story about this surrender from this not being able to reach, and then you expanded because of it, it was literally what he had mentioned last night. So it's like you can't make up the timing of this. So you have to go. I'm going to add that into the show notes.
Nice,
Kyle
nice.
sees YouTube. So I loved that because it was exactly what he was explaining, and it allowed me to look in my life. And you and I've talked about this before. Is, are we willing to surrender to not trying to reach things, people, events, experiences, jobs, all of those things? We take a look and see, like, are we reaching for those connections as for comfort rather than allowing ourselves to expand? And so
100%.
that was like, I've got chills hearing your story, because as you had said too, it was not easy, but you said, like, you can't make, like, you hear these of these stories, and that you were one of them. And so that's a reiteration I hope that the audience can take from that. Where are we, all of us, perhaps latching onto connection so that we don't have to expand? And
Oh,
why are we getting served contraction? Right? And it's not easy because sometimes many things have to be shed. It's the year of the snake. So there you go. And so it's beautiful. And so I thank you for sharing that, because it just tied my whole, watching that last night, reflecting on my
yeah,
own and journaling on my own,
yeah.
right?
And I understand 100% how, because when I said it was challenging, that the letting go, I mean, it was a sweet situation where I was in that salon, free parking, receptionist, the owner. He would do, I was ready to expand the spa service, all kinds of things, and I had a great relationship with him. But then everything kept getting sabotaged. So it told me, yeah, I wanted to hold on to that, but it told me there's something else. And then on 1111, which was
Mhm.
2011, it said out. And I'm like, no, I don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, you're not pushing me out. And so I still look today to see, I mean, there's been other situations too where letting go. And I've also studied with Kyle, as you say, and I love it. You hear his message, you hear others' message around. If it's not resonating and there's this, big resistance, it's
Mhm.
letting go. There's so many messages out there like that. And
Yeah.
for me, it's attachment. It's the loss and the grief of maybe not being able to fix it. Like that's been a big lesson for me
Yeah.
in many relationships. I wanna fix it. I was a
Yeah.
big fixer. I wanna fix it. And then I went through, if I can't fix it, then I must have missed something. And I just went through that probably a bit too long. Now
Yeah.
I feel like I'm mastering it, where I'm being more comfortable with being uncomfortable
Yeah. And it's
in the
like in your
letting
quote,
go.
your mantra that you mentioned that I had shared in your intro, is just feel the fear and do it anyway. And I think that's, you take from your story of that experience as one. And I know for myself that there's a lot of times I have to borrow the belief in my younger self.
Mm,
Whenever I did that when I was 22, like, wow, that was nuts. I was able to feel the fear and do it anyway and make these significant changes. And sometimes as a almost 48-year-old now, I look back and I say, I need to borrow the belief in that woman who was fearless, and remind myself what magic comes from feeling the fear and doing it anyway, and knowing the difference, right, Cynthia? Because I think we also, because one of my quotes I like to say is, if it's not light, it's not right.
mm.
Right. So that's one of the many, that I love to use. And
I love
sometimes,
that.
and and sometimes we do need the contrast as well too. So, I know that you've talked with me about, a lot of the relationships with, like, your family dynamics and all of the beautiful healing that you've been able to do to be the strong woman that you are today. And it's not easy, especially if you feel like you're alone. So tools are great and mentors are great. But I would love to, if you could share some insight with people as well, like what helps you and helped you in the past to ground in continuing, where, it's easy to go back to the comfort, go back to what makes us feel actually small, but it seems like it's, comfortable. Is there anything else, any practices that you do? Because I know you're a beautiful musician, you're a beautiful artist, your
Mm.
jewelry is stunning. So the creative outlet that I know that you have, I would love for you to maybe touch on that, like what grounds you, how music comes into your life and plays into that ability to allow that self to settle into your own source energy.
And to return to self. Yeah, it's a
Mhm.
very good question. I think I tap into many different resources, depending on what is needed at the moment. But I feel very fortunate that I do have a connection with higher intelligence or spirit that guides me and gives me messages. And then also, I love to feel healthy. So I
Mm,
love to do what's fun and light, as you said. So it's kind of, that contrast is very clear. When my body intelligence, my mind will say, well, okay, that's let's say, so-called family members, close friend you've known for a long time, you should, and my body goes, and not right now. It just won't let me
yeah.
anymore. and make the effort, do everything, put in the time, put in the love, put in the forgiveness and compassion. But what leads me more is getting excited about what is fun and joyful and light, because I say affirmation to myself that because I love to feel healthy, I know that whatever I'm doing, let's say if it's positive, I'm flooding positive chemicals through my body. So maybe I'm selfish. And I will make, every morning I get up, I have a week chart that I do on what I'm working on with my projects. And I put I'll do my day chart, my day sheet too, that I follow. And in there, I will include as a habit that started. It's hard to say when it started because I've done so many different workshops and self-actualization stuff that reminded me to write down what even though I don't know how I would manifest, just write it down and stay with it. I write down the positive things and have many habits in there, like I'll play, if I don't have a lot of time to play piano, even if I'm doing 5 minutes of scales, that vibration of that music goes, and I get excited about that. Or I'll sit at my art table, because in my office here, I have a keyboard back there, and then my work area there. I'm actually sitting at my art table here with all my beads and jewelry. So I move around from these different pods to feed myself. Or I will, I'll go to the gym in the morning and just, do actually it's a pretty wimpy workout, but it seems to be effective, or do my walking. And then I do I'm eating consciously, and we have a naturopathic doctor now where, I'm taking these beautiful herbs and giving myself enough protein, carbs, and fats, and really working on the gut health and the brain health. That is actually quite powerful. If I cheat too much, and I don't feel good. But yeah, so adding in those fun things. Also, I'm so grateful for people like yourself who are putting out amazing content, and you can go to your website, or I'll get your newsletter, and just be fed by this beautiful wisdom that you are pulling together for people. And we're fortunate, again, to have people like yourself. I think I mentioned depending on the day or the week, I'll be on a roll with someone. Right now, I'm on a roll with Terry Real.
I was going to ask you tell me, because I mean, you're like me, I get my fuel from, and I sent this to a business mentor of mine this morning. I'm like, certain podcasts are my Netflix.
Yeah.
Right. So for me, it's like nothing is wrong with Netflix. I don't resonate. Like I was trying to watch a movie yesterday. I'm like, I can't get into it. And then I put a Diary of a CEO podcast. I'm like, there's my Netflix. And so because it's fun, and it's also like what you said about healthy eating, so tell me about Terry Real. And then also I wanted to go back to what does it mean to consciously eat? Because I want to share a little bit insight on that as well. But Terry Real was one of the men or women. Is it female or male? Terry.
Male.
Okay, yeah. As I was reading I'm like, I'm not familiar with this name. This is interesting. All the other ones, love them, from Les Brown to Wayne Dyer. But tell me about Terry, and what is it that sparks your interest around that content?
Yeah, well, I was having a conversation with a girlfriend around marriage. And I would say he's a marriage therapist first, but he's done a lot of deep work on himself to heal himself. And I like his point of view. Oh, anyway, so this friend mentioned, have you heard about Terry Real? I'm like, no, I've never heard of him. Started watching his podcast. So his work is called relational life therapy. It doesn't really say a lot, does it? But he's all about promoting our relationships in a new way. And he has a strong background in sociology. So he's been watching for years of how we've all been indoctrinated, how the patriarchy comes into play, and how the repression of women, and we're talking not necessarily gender, because women can be patriarchal and men can be, but his theories have just blown me out of the water and grown a ton of compassion, because being married is I think it's one of the biggest spiritual growth experiences one could have. As he talks about, you fall in love as we know, and it's romantic and it's sweet, and you just kind of want to stay on that role for a while. And then, but what will happen is everything unresolved from your childhood, we know this, and your partner is going to rear and show up. And we're gonna, we're gonna want to point the finger and say, "Stop that!" And there's times where, okay, that's good, and they're gonna want to react, and then all this dance that we are all going through, as he says. He's like,
Yeah.
people make it look like, no, they're fine. No, we're all going through. He believes it, and I believe it too, because I was
Yeah.
behind the chair for 25 years doing hair. I got to hear some
Oh my
stories.
gosh.
I got to put some things together, and I'm like, okay, well, phew, I'm glad.
Yeah.
But he, one of the things I love about him is he's gentle, and he's informative, he's funny, and he brings so much education and skills to couples.
Wow.
And I recently shared this with Tom, my husband, because we have an agreement. This is my second marriage. I was married to my son's father, and we had our experience, and then we ended our marriage. And I thought, if I ever get married again, I'm really going to be paying attention to what I want versus the first time around, which was I didn't know what to ask. I was in the fairy tale, and there were many positive things about the marriage, but then it reached its it didn't seem to want to go to a next level. We'll just leave it at that. But with Tom, I knew enough to say, one of the things I want is to do one couples workshop a year. So as part of our contract, and Terry talks about this too, that it's a really good idea to have agreements up front about your relationship and what you want. And I don't think I'm doing a good job explaining who Terry is. I'm just going to say, check out some of his videos. But what's really neat is that maybe I found out about him about 3 weeks ago. Tom and I are going to do this workshop. He's enjoying listening to the videos, feeling very leaning into what he has to say, because he's a great comfort and support for men, which I love.
Mm-hmm.
A great comfort and support for women too. So I'm feeling so much more hopeful around intimacy, because I'm going to say a general statement. I think most women would like a little more intimacy, and in the communication level, where we're listening and reflecting, and this gentle versus the reactionary. Because the child self, what Terry talks about is we have an adaptive child. I think it's so interesting and so true. My adaptive child would have been to overcompensate and try to fix everybody so everybody's happy, so we could just be settled, and I would forget about myself too much, which is a common thing for women sometimes, they say. And I think it was a great tool for a while and kept me safe, but I ended up becoming resentful, because I wanted a balanced relationship and didn't want to be doing so much of the giving and the thinking and to evolve something. And so Terry has really good skill sets of how to help any of our strategies, any of our adaptive strategies, which we all have some. Many of us that have worked on ourselves are more aware of what we're up to. If we're a fighter, if we freeze, if we are a blamer or whatever. And he just breaks it all down beautifully. And I just feel like this relief, like someone is speaking about things. I feel like I kind of saw through some of that. So I asked another question. I don't know if I answered that in a way that's, helpful, but.
No, that's amazing. And again, so timely, because again, like you said, if anyone is in a relationship, whether they're married or together, partnered, coupled, um, is inevitable. Right? So whether you're 11 years or 21 years, you got 10 years, on me, Cynthia, with Tom, with me, with Anthony. And I think it's really important to be able to have guidance from those that resonate with us, because there's so many different relationship tools and mentors and couples out there that do it together, and mentoring people. And I think that's beautiful. And, it's also important that we really discern what the messages are and if they're actually resonating with our hearts, because it's such a fragile place to be in relationship. Right.
Yeah.
And so I absolutely agree with you. And I feel like, you're saying that you only met or learned of Terry 3 weeks ago. I'm like, this is beautiful. I'm like, as soon as we get off, I'm like, going to go on YouTube, because I think it's really important, and love how you had shared as well, because there's been such a, narrative about the way that we're supposed to be in relationship. And so that can really hurt both people, because, and I can, attest to this as well too, is that we think it's supposed to be a certain way, or like either partner or both partners in their own way believes that it's meant to be a certain way. And when it doesn't look like that, we want everything to be that way. So we're going to be like, I need it this way. So what happens is, and I've used this analogy and I'll share this, in conversation, is going back even to intimacy, because, you know, intimacy is very special, and it's not about sex. It's about that feeling of safety. I loved what you said about communication, because if you think about, and I have used this analogy, so my husband will have to excuse, this is my podcast. I'll share whatever I want. No, he'll be fine. As I said, sex is like a cake. The cake is only going to show up when the ingredients are there. And
Yeah.
so when we're expecting the cake, I want the cake, but the ingredients are not there, the cake literally can't show up. And so when you're trying to create a cake with no ingredients, no batter, no sugar, no whatever, gluten-free flour, whatever that is, you don't even put it in the oven, but you want it to. And so I think, and it's a kind of a crazy analogy. I'd never
Mm,
heard it from anywhere else. It just came up in conversation. And I think that that's the most important thing. And then we could think about the inspired action that we take for the result to show up.
yeah.
Then it can show up in authenticity. And you
Yeah.
also shared something earlier that from the different experience, but it is like whenever we act in the way that we want, like, so for health and wellness, if we want to be joyful, probably not the best thing to be eating a lot of pizza and drinking a lot of wine, because the neurotransmitters are not going to be functioning for joy to show up. And so instead of saying, I wish I was happy, do the things that our happiness gets created. And I
Yeah.
think we want the magic pill, right? And so, but we really take the steps to be joyful, in the steps like jump on my rebounder for 10, 15 minutes in the day. All of a sudden I'm singing, right? And so the rebounder created joy. I wasn't searching for joy. I did things where joy shows up. And so
Mm,
I love being able to have raw conversations when it comes to things like intimacy, because I think we all deserve it in that authentic, organic form. And if we can create the energy that creates intimacy, the whole part's fun, because we're exuding joy, we're exuding open communication, we're exuding heart-centered conversations. All of those parts are fun. And then the intimacy is also gratifying in a way that's not instant gratification. It's the byproduct of all of those things that add up to that. So, I
100%.
so I
100%. Oh, wow. You said so much right there. Just oof. Yeah. And the discipline that on a personal level to feel good, the discipline that it takes is big. It's a real commitment. It's, thought, word, and deed. Even if we don't feel like doing it, there's times when I just don't feel like doing that. And I can think ahead and know that if I don't, guess what? You're going to feel like that. I have enough foresight to see that. So for myself, in terms of putting in the extra ingredients for our cake, I've been, and I fully admit, there's times where I've wanted to put energy in or ingredients in, and there's times where I don't. And I try to do a lot of soul searching to say, how do I keep myself in accountability for what I initially agreed upon in this marriage? And that was utmost truth, so that I didn't start doing walking, sleep, and going along just to kind of keep the peace. Like my agreement was to be part of the leadership of what it takes to take a relationship to the next level. That means I need to be vulnerable and feel feelings. And there's been a part of me like, I don't want to go there. Because I might open something up in me and it might just get met with the hand, and I will hurt, and don't want that. So I also do a lot of meditation where Kyle Cease has been so helpful in this, where he says, when I'm talking about those feelings sometimes that I don't want to feel, he's been such a great encourager, just as many are. There's their teachers that to just feel it, allow it, and let it. It sort of burns and stings, and I'm like, no, I don't want that. I don't want.
Yeah.
Stay.
Yeah.
Feel, breathe, let it, and watch that energy just move up and out. It's something at one. And then there's that spaciousness for me to respond or communicate from a deeper knowing of what was under there. And when I operate from that place, I watch Tom lean in. If I haven't done that sort of feeling work, it might come out a little bit edgy. or other things. I mean, I have to say I'm a pretty contained person. I don't blow up and things like that, but
Yeah.
I've got a shoulder that could get kind of cold. I mean, just like I want to go in my room and just be alone. That's what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, being vulnerable and really listening deep
Mhm.
and speaking from non-blame, like, okay, we're baking this cake here. And I'm
Yeah.
not talking just that it's all about sex. It's about connecting so that we are coming from our adult self and
Oh.
not our old child self that just
Mhm.
wants our ego self that wants to run the show and is pretty
Yeah.
pissed off because of all the things we never got. We're just
Yeah.
all wired like this. So I'm trying to like operate from that place. So meditation
Yeah.
helps, feeling those feelings, getting them up and out, listening to different podcasts to help. And it's really neat that I feel recently I've made some lovely moves towards feeling not quite hopeless, but something like that, to like really hopeful
Right.
and closer. Some based on some of the moves that I made personally that were different. Because I know, like Kyle says a lot, and Terry Real says a lot, like we just want to be right. I want to be right. I am right. I'm
Mhm.
right. I know this stuff. Don't you know? I'm all right. Stop it.
Yeah. Because there's that saying out there, you can either be right or happy, right? And then there's also, I mean, we even going back to relationships, then I do want to go, and I remembered it was conscious eating because I think that's really an important thing. But when we talk about, you know, you had said something right at the beginning of the episode, talking about how you're aware enough to know what you're up to. And I think that's the key. So sometimes like we're human, we could maybe have the cold shoulder or the outrage, whatever that, stomping child wants to just like, I want this and I'm not getting it. But being able to say, wow, look at that. I just went back to my old self, my old way. But being able to say, I'm human. But I think the most
Exactly.
important thing that I know for my own self in any relationship is accountability. So like I'm
Mhm.
going to screw up, I'm going to be late, I'm going to, forget something. I'm going to be like, not my perfect conscious soul self. But if I could say, well, I recognize that that came from a place of fear or that
Yeah.
came from a place of being triggered for something that clearly there's more work to do. Not getting so
Mm.
over analytical about it, because I also believe, and I shared this with some friends last couple of weeks ago, it's also to be able to stay fresh in just living as well too. Because a lot of times if we overanalyze everything we're doing, then our dominant thought is analyzing everything we're doing, then we are overanalyzing, then we're looking for ways to analyze that we're not good enough or that we're broken, which we're not. And so there's this fine line, I believe, when we are engulfed and engaged in spiritual development, self-actualization, all those things that I think is so important. I think all of those things are very important. You had mentioned too, like reclaiming our authentic selves. My tagline for my podcast is follow the magic that ignites your inner essence. So I'm always looking for ways to be in my inner essence, but also to stay joyful at the same time. And I wanted to ask you about conscious eating. And I think
Mhm.
as we talked about so many things after that, it's about being conscious with everything as much as we can. So being conscious with how we show up, conscious with how we don't show up, conscious with, and so I wanted to talk to you about that because I think for a lot of people, there's so many, diets out there, fads now, goes from keto to carnivore to vegetarian to vegan. There's so many philosophies around food when we're all so unique. And I think we all need different things at different times for
I
different
agree.
reasons. So can you share with us, not to say that yours is the way, but I would love to know, like,
Of
what does
course.
conscious eating mean to you? And when does it shift for you? Or is it circumstantial what you feed your body? Or is it something special or something just intuitive?
Right, right, right. Um, well, more recently, over the last 6 months, we started with a naturopathic doctor who she did a lot of blood work and scans and all kinds of different, saliva tests, and she just kind of got a read on us. And she was recommending for both Tom and I to go keto for a while, to
Mhm.
really cut the sugar and the high carbs, the fast carbs. So she was recommending really good quality proteins
Mhm.
and not necessarily meats, but if she is okay with meats as long as they're grass fed and finished and things like that. But the cleanest stuff you can find.
Yeah.
meats, vegetables, and good fats. So they really pump up the fats, the ghee,
Yeah.
olive oil, because that's good for our brain, avocado.
Mhm.
And I notice, and Tom too, that when we cut the sugars, and I didn't even do a lot of sugars, but I would do some, cut the
Mhm.
sugars, the carbs, the starches, all the white, that many people talk about, and up the protein, the fats, and have that protein carb, good carb fat. Good carbs meaning like a lot of vegetables, a lot of roughage, a lot of like variety there. It just felt so much better, so
Yeah.
much more energy. Um, Also, the gut health, we know there's so much around that. Like if your gut health is off, so probiotics, natural or store bought, is a really great thing. So I notice when I cheat and I throw my gut health off a little bit,
Yeah.
I'm super foggy. And one of the reasons I'm disciplined about that is because I have all these projects that I love to do and I want to feel good.
Mhm.
However, I do slip. I love to have a glass of wine once in a while, and I still can as long as I don't, just go too far. But yeah, clean, healthy, organic food. And I know it's a difficult thing to find and it can be very expensive. Um, but we have found some good resources on where to find good clean food. And I don't know if that, and also she's giving she based on our test she gave us like different herbs and things to
Yeah.
support our organs,
Yeah.
and it seems to be working
Yeah. And
really
the
well.
thing
And
too.
just recently, I just want to say, she did the scan the other day. We were both there, and she said your biological age is 42,
Ooh,
and
you're younger than
I said,
me.
because I know, I was like 42 and I'm 29. So I
Yeah.
was like, wow,
Oh,
42, that's
no.
cool. But I feel it in the joints
Yeah.
and everything feels really good. And so I
Yeah.
plan to stay with it and cheat occasionally.
Of
So,
course. And the thing is too is that when you treat your body properly, even if you go back to like, is eating healthy expensive? When you eat healthy, you eat less, you crave
mhm.
less. So if you really were to even monitor, say a month, for those that may be sugar dependent, all of those things, the amount of money that you potentially are putting towards those things that are not feeding your cell health is a detriment later. So, and it's like pay now or pay later, and it's not going to be as expensive. You're not going to eat as much, and you're going to feel amazing. So you're going to get more done. And so there's all those ways that investing in your health just is you get paid back in dividends, right? The ROI on that is significant, and you just don't eat as much, and you feel amazing. And then whenever you do want to have, say, the dark chocolate or even the cake, if you want to have the glass of wine, your body is able to handle it better because it's so much stronger. And so then it's
Right.
not compromising you as much as it would if you were having it every night or every morning. So I don't think that we need to restrict ourselves 100%. But once you have a lifestyle, not a diet, that is supportive of feeling amazing. So feeling amazing. And I eat to feel amazing. Or for me, I like to say, like, I eat for my brain. So I eat things that I
Yeah.
know are fueling the brain. I just don't go towards like a croissant like maybe I would if I was eating not so well because I'm stressed, and then the stress is creating the desire for bad food. That cycle happens and it's unhealthy, and you can go down fast. But if you say I'm going to eat to feel great, then if you are hanging out with your girlfriend and having a glass of wine is going to make you feel great, your body feels it. So your body can sense that
Absolutely.
you're joyful with the wine, not drinking it because you're trying to numb a challenge. And again, it's no
Very
judgment,
true.
but if we could do that, like feel through our food, it's conscious and it's not unconscious.
I love the way you described all that, and I'm 100% on board.
Yeah.
And it's great. So it sounds like that's something in your life that's
Always a work in
fine-tune
progress.
machine, a work in progress. Fine-tune machine sometime, and yeah, work
Yeah.
in progress. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's a positive attribute that and exercise, and then
Mhm.
adding in fun, joyous things that
Yeah.
really ignite your cells, and you can just
Yeah.
feel that you get excited about. And I'd say that the most challenging thing is are certain relationships that don't have that energy to them, and knowing how to, fully let go. It's
Mhm.
it's a tough one. It's
Of course. Yeah.
painful, but then on the upside is, health and joy, and it's also, I think, I'll give myself the permission because I know I'm here to serve. Whatever gifts
Mhm.
come through me, I can be more of service that way.
Yeah, because our environment is everything. There was a quote that I heard. I'm all about quotes, but this quote that I heard on this beautiful woman was leading a Zoom last Monday, and she said a quote, and it's interesting because you could be like, I've been reading books in spiritual and personal development since for 2 decades, but there's always these new things that pop in that I'm like, I've never heard that before. One huge
Mhm.
thing was she said, and I'll paraphrase it, that our environment is always stronger than our willpower. And I thought, wow.
Yeah.
And I thought,
Hmm.
never heard of that. Like, I've had a coach, beautiful mentor, Colin Sprick out of Vancouver, and he had this format calling, like, in the first part was like influence equals, I can't remember, like your thoughts equals your feelings equals your emotions equals your actions equals your results. So influence was always like, I always knew that. But the way that this woman had said it, that your environment, which is the same thing as what is influencing you, will always like either supersede or be stronger than your willpower. So if you think about, like you had said, if your environment is low vibration or toxic or gaslighting or hurtful or shame and blame, how would you say, as you, Cynthia, as the artist and musician, be able to be in creation? Your willpower to create is not going to be as strong as your environment holding you down. So imagine if we said, I owe myself the self-love to allow my environment to support the willpower that I have, so that it doesn't take so much willpower to create the music, to create the dance, to create the jewelry. So it's just very interesting because I believe, for me, and I've seen it with so many of my connections, my beautiful soul connections, that maybe we need to take more time to clean our environment and be
Mm.
okay with that and have the boundaries to do that and have the standards to maybe revisit what that looks like for us. And not doesn't have to be, a hard stop at relationships, but it could be a new conversation with those relationships, not blaming, but stating with standards, as I reflect on my environment and what I need to grow, these are things that I know that I need to either clean up, make changes, reevaluate, create more harmony around where there may be static. And coming from a place of love, I believe we can do both. I believe we could have love and boundaries hold the same space.
Yeah, absolutely. You said the word boundaries. That's just did Kyle Cease workshop,
How
boundaries
I
workshop
Yes.
last weekend, and that's exactly what he is purporting. And it was phenomenal. I was so happy. I
Talk
went
to
to
me about it. Let's
thought of you. Yeah, I just
Oh,
wanted to say that I think it's a no-brainer that we know what feels joyful and what we want to move towards and what we don't. I just think I'm not sure. I can't speak for men. I tend to speak for women that I've witnessed is that we've just been so indoctrinated to be, kind and good and compassionate and go the extra mile for people who are hurting when really it is sort of taking us down a little bit of a slippery slope when we don't have the energy to create. So, but yeah, Kyle, speaking exactly what you just said, and what it takes to he actually he's asking us to really trust what we know, and to do that, because there's a lot of clutter and noise and chaos in our minds and in the culture, is that he promotes at least an hour of meditation a day to get really clear on
mhm,
what that is. And then he doesn't, unless I've missed, talk a lot about what people go through cutting the ties. I think he and Terry Real do say something around, you make your efforts, you speak who you are now, what you are needing, you make room for the negotiation, and then you basically will see what unfolds. And if it doesn't unfold that someone wants to meet you, it
mhm.
doesn't have to be a cold hard stop, but you'll probably notice you'll have less availability.
Mm, yep,
It
yep,
just, you're gonna choose, because the body intelligence is going to tell you if you really are open to listen.
yeah. It's beautiful. And I think as we do evolve, being open to relationships changing, evolving, and that evolving of a relationship could be the dissolving of the relationship.
Yeah, it definitely can. and will happen in time. I don't think all relationships are meant to um, sustain forever. It depends on the individuals and if they want to have an
Mhm.
evolving um, dance with each other. And that's a tough one. That's a huge conversation in itself. I'd
I
love to
know.
hear how you feel also around what it means to let go after being literally programmed and in culture or indoctrinated
Mhm.
to be nice and loving and not selfish and the
Yeah.
rest. That's a tough area. It takes a strong backbone in a way, but it can also be
Mhm.
done loving. But I'd love
Yeah.
to hear your
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I believe that we've been indoctrinated, like, say, if we talk about marriage or even talk about friendships, we could just use either or, is that, and I've seen it, like, when someone would say, "Well, we've been friends since kindergarten." I'm like, "That doesn't
Mhm,
matter." Right? Are they still
mhm,
treating you, is it still a standard that you wanna keep? And even in relationships as well too, it's very multifaceted. And I think, we all want things to last forever, but if we were able to say that there's no judgment or shame on saying, like, it failed. I was watching a podcast, with, I don't know if you follow Danette May. She was on Emily
mm.
Fletcher, so that's my other Netflix, binge show.
What's
Um,
her name?
well, it's the podcast is called Ziva Meditation, so Ziva. Emily
Mm,
Fletcher, and I've binge watched all of her episodes over the last year. And Danette May was on, I think it could have been a month ago, and she was saying, there's a clip on divorce, and then she was talking about how, sometimes people think, well, that I failed, but there is not really failing. Sometimes it's like being like not failing. Failing could be staying, right? And so being able to say that there was an end point of that contract. And again, there's no not telling you what, this is just a philosophy that resonates with me. When I think about past relationships, where when I look back on past long relationships, because I've had about 3 long-term relationships in my life, and all of those, maybe they didn't end so perfectly, but I would say one of them where I felt that was the ending of that contract. And it was, literally having a coffee under a tree in a park and saying, like, I don't feel that Diane can be all that she can be in this. And I don't believe that
mm,
you can be all that you can be with me. So it
mm.
wasn't like you did this, I'm leaving. It was this
Wonderful.
crazy. This was when my spiritual kind of evolution started. I was 29, and I still go back. I'm like, wow, like what part of me got there to say that and actually feel that. I
That's
didn't really feel,
beautiful.
sure, there was, like, feelings of blame in it back and forth with both of us, but I did come to that place where it was so calm for me, and I just saw it as complete. So imagine if we could say, "And it is complete," rather than it is, failed and
Yeah, I love
ended,
that.
and,
Love that.
because it's just some things are just complete.
I love that, and I believe you and I spoke briefly on the, Catherine Woodward Thomas
Yes, the
wrote a
conscious
book.
uncoupling.
Conscious, what a beautiful way to and that you embody that energy right there as you spoke about it. Um, it's very evolved and beautiful, and I'd like to see more of that. Yeah, but there's so many stigmas and
Mhm.
judgments on someone like who you failed if
Yeah,
you didn't go the long haul. And there are a lot of people that stay together in long haul, and it's like a sleepwalking, and
yeah,
I don't think that's healthy. But to each their own. I just know I want to stay true with being joyful, expressive, feeling like there's a balance of give
yeah,
and take in the relationship, and enough, time together and a time apart.
yeah.
That's one thing I'm very pleased that we have in our relationship. My husband will take off
Mhm.
on his motorcycle and ride for a week, and he's getting with God, and I'm like, yeah, I'll never take that away from you. I'll go and do my things and
Yeah.
dance with girlfriends or go girlfriend weekends. And
Mhm.
he's like, have a really good time. And that means the world to me.
Yeah,
That kind of energy of, because to me, what love is, is wanting for you what you want for you,
yeah, and freedom.
and freedom.
Yeah. I mean, everyone will have a different, what their standards or their, values are around relationship, but I would say that for me is the same because I'm like you. I need my freedom. I need my independence. I'm kind of that witchy, fly around on my broomsticks type of, in my human design, I'm a manifester. So I'm just, I feel like I'm
Oh, that's
floating.
right. We're both manifestors. I forgot about that. That's
So
great.
crazy. And I mean, we're not normal. So,
We gotta
but no,
go.
but I do need that.
Yeah.
I need that freedom, right? Because that's where my inspiration comes from, is being alone too, as a hermit in my human
Mm.
design. And I've talked about this plenty on my last season, because Jenny Lethbridge she's on one of my episodes. She's outstanding. And I've since had so many of my friends use her as a coach, and learning about not only what you're like manifestor, manifesting generator, projector, reflector, and all of those beautiful things, is also knowing what your numbers are. So I'm a role model hermit. And so I'm very good at being a role model, and I also need to actually go away for a while. And so if I don't do that, I get so much anxiety, and I
Uh-huh.
actually can just feel so not well. And so I just need time for like literal hermiting. And I never knew
Oh,
that for 46 years of my life. But my body always kept the score, and I always knew. I just didn't know how to identify it. And so I
yep.
believe everyone deserves to know what their human design is. I think it's gorgeous. I think it's accurate, and it takes so many things like, you know, astrology meets the I Ching meets, the quantum. It's such a beautiful thing to learn about that. So you could also create those standards for that. And maybe that also will help to show up what you need in a relationship. So what you, Cynthia, even as a manifestor, whatever your numbers are, may be different from what I need, what your husband, what Tom needs. And then being able to understand that. Why do we operate the way we operate, and how can we honor that operation?
Mhm.
So then you don't
100%
point the finger,
self-love right there.
right? Yeah. And honoring
Take
who we are.
responsibility for what you need. I know when we travel or if we're visiting family, I'm very clear, like I can do 2 days and I'm gonna need a day and a half of like nothingness and I know that because I used to get stuck in this loop where like, why do I feel so uncomfortable? I've only been with this person a day and a half and I am suffering inside. What's wrong with me? And I'm like, no, I'm
Mhm.
not doing
Yeah.
that anymore.
Yeah.
I get what I need.
Yep. It's great because then you can permit yourself. It's like you give yourself permission. Nobody else needs to give you permission, you know. And I think that that conviction and authority for our own souls needs is really powerful. That's self-love, right? So not looking for validation or looking for someone to approve of what we need, is being able to just know what that is and why, and standing in that truth. And then that also shows up in
Mhm.
boundaries, love and boundaries.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
I feel like I'm doing that well. I know in the past I had a lot of hooks into caring about what other people thought and what they said and the things
Mhm.
they would say if I wasn't what they wanted me to be. Oh,
Yeah.
boy, that hurt. I was sensitive and I allowed that to hurt
Mhm.
deeply until I didn't.
Yeah.
But, I love being on this end of it. It's up through all those little hits and questions of like, "Wait a minute, I wouldn't do that to you. Why would you
Mhm.
why is this so conditional? Like, this is something." So I'm pleased. I'm pleased to have made that kind of growth and, from a girl who was really afraid to even speak up at all in home, and I don't know if I wrote this, but that there was such indoctrination with the nothing against the Catholic Church, but I grew up fundamentalist Catholic. I had so many dreams of being thrown into fire if I wasn't perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
Wow.
learned how to bend myself into a pretzel to make everyone happy. So to do this radical shift to, like, really come back to self and learn what that is, I'm
Yeah.
proud of
It's
and I'm
amazing.
proud that I could open my voice to sing. I couldn't sing. I could sing maybe a half a line in a group of people. I knew I loved music, and then I would just it just shut down hard. I'm like, "Well, what is that?" And I kept facing it to the point where I could eventually and I said, "One day I am gonna sing a solo song. I am going to do this because it's in me somewhere." And
Yeah.
I ended up doing it, and I am really proud, and I just keep pushing those boundaries because I'm sure there's still some blocks, and it's just a really beautiful exploration and sometimes a real scary one.
Yes. And with that, because I know you're a beautiful singer and I've heard your work, is where did that come into in your life? How did that play in it? Was that healing for you? What is that relationship to singing and music for you? Because I know you
Mm.
do a lot of it.
As a young child, I remember having the freedom. to dance and sing in my bedroom just because music turned me on. And my very first love was when I was 8 years old. I heard my cousin play the piano. She played a song, Fearless, I think it's Beethoven. And I just was so wowed. It was just like rockets went off everywhere. And I ran home and told my mom, I have to have a piano, Mom. And we didn't have much, but somehow she did get me a piano I think
Wow.
because she wanted one. There was so much chaos in my family. I couldn't really like take it to like how my sons have taken it all the way up to like Franz Liszt, and they're all over the keyboard. There was a lot of chaos, and I had my own learning disabilities, but at least I got a foundation in, and I got the piano, and I just worked to stay with it over time because I love the way I feel when I'm with it. The next step I took was still feeling like repressed and shy in my early 30s in some ways other than dance and singing alone. I really got into drumming because there was that collective heartbeat and that collective where there wasn't communication and there wasn't any kind of expectation of performance. And I could just allow that to move through me, the drum. And I had some great teachers that just said, allow it like you allow dance. And I'm like, oh yeah, I get that. And
Wow.
then I had a whole great experience of drumming and the Reiki community. And we were hired. I was with these two guys that we really connected, and we were hired and we drummed all. And then the next came, I wanted to go next level and sing because I was doing vocals, sounds with the drumming, and I wanted to be able to like something. So I remember setting an intention one time when I was at Interfaith Center for Spiritual Growth in Ann Arbor. And I talked to the keyboardist and I said, God, I'd love to learn more about piano and singing and writing songs. And she was a great inspiration. And my son, Michael, and Alex, but my son, Michael, has been a teacher for me. He is very fast, very sharp, and very capable. He didn't have some of those same blocks that I did.
Mhm.
He's been my teacher, and he is to this day. He's
Wow.
taught me about, writing music and learning scales and writing songs. And the vocal bit is I just pushing the limit. And I sing with my husband, who has an amazing voice, and
Yeah.
he will encourage me. And by the way, I haven't given my husband enough credit on how he's supported me back from even opening my salon to all the various creative projects and belief in me, and even singing. He's like, go for it, sing it, let it out.
Wow.
Just like that kind of, I do need a little encouragement sometimes. I did
Yeah.
along the way.
Yeah.
Now, I just watch my own mind and what my thoughts are. But yeah, so the more I sang, and gave myself opportunities, because there's plenty out there,
Mhm.
the better I felt and the more I wanted to do it. But I think it originated just from feeling music and dance early as a child. And both my parents loved music, and it
Wow.
was played in our home a lot. And
Yeah.
it's in the fiber of my being. Um, and I have one question about myself. Why don't I allow more time for it? Because I do the coaching and I do the jewelry and I've got the products page from my
Yeah.
salon, so why do I have so many things that I could be like, I don't have the answer there. And I'm just playing
Mhm.
with all of them right now.
Yeah. That's amazing. So it's because I love that you said, how can I find the time for more? And I think, because words are everything. And maybe, as I was hearing you say that, because I do that with my writing, like I have that question, but the question that I'm asking is not serving the answer. So maybe
That's a
you
good
and I, as soul sisters, can, shift that, because it's literally what I say of like, I'm excited to see where writing gets to show up for me more.
mm,
Right. And then
beautiful.
it's like, oh, because I also today I put in my calendar, I'm like, I was able to find an hour that I would love to do, and I will be channeling writing. And so maybe that, we can be accountability partners for that.
Oh, I love that. I absolutely adore that. And
Yeah.
I just love your leadership and my goodness, the work that you've done, it's clearly shows
Oh,
to be a creative and to bring forth this beautiful work that you're doing. I know I know there's a great deal of work that goes on behind the scene and accountability. So yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. I'd be happy to support you in any way.
yeah. We'll just support each other as we're here to do. I love
And
it.
be supported.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's interesting because as you're sharing about the music, and at the end of all of my podcast episodes, I always like to ask a question, and I never know what it is. And I told you earlier, it always comes through whatever we're chatting about. So, but before I ask the question, I do want to ask, as we close out this beautiful conversation, you have so many things in gifts that you offer. One of which is like a beautiful bracelet that you brought to me. I'm not wearing it right now, but it's the most beautiful beaded
Aw.
bracelet. Honestly, it's stunning. And I would love for you to share, where can people find you? Do you have any music that I would love to, add on to the show notes for your beautiful
Aw.
voice? And is there anything going on for you this coming year? I would love for you to share where we could find you in terms of your website. I think you're on Instagram.
I have a small little Instagram that I started that someone helped me with. It's
Uh,
sort of not my forte to get on there and do that and the techie bits of things. But yeah, it's a Illuminate Designs with an S. 44 is the Instagram, and there are 12 pieces of my dichroic glass. I think I have about 83.
yeah.
At synergy44.com. You can see many of the pieces that can be purchased from the
Right.
website.
Love
Some
that.
of the bracelets and earrings and other ceramic, I do ceramics too. I have a minor in fine arts. They're not on the website because it's a hell of a lot of work.
Yeah.
So, it could be, if you're interested in, reach out. I have through the website, synergy44.com, or through ccreedy@gmail.com to see what I have. I can
Okay.
send pictures and things.
I
I'm
was just
about
gonna say
ready
that.
to,
Yeah.
huh?
It's a great idea to send pictures if someone's interested in looking at without what's
Yeah.
not on the website, so they can email you, and your email address is also on your website that you said,
Yeah.
ccreedy@gmail.com?
Thank you. Yeah, and,
Yeah.
I'm about ready to do the Santa Ana Art Walk. So
Oh,
I'm making a lot of, yeah, bracelets, and thank you for that compliment. I'm really enjoying it. I thought it would be nice to do the dichroic glass. I thought it'd be nice to have earrings and other bracelets, and I just love creating and working with my hands. So I've
yeah.
made many of them, but they're not on a website at this point because it just takes hours to do all that.
I know,
And
I
I'd rather
know.
be making them. So, and I thought I'd love the
Exactly.
interaction too at an art fair. I'll do more art fairs.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can reach out and I can share. And then the products page, when you go to synergy44.com, you'll see mostly the hair products. And these are products that I carried in my salon that during COVID were not accessible to the clients. And we moved to California then. So my
Yeah.
distributor allowed me to put them on there. And there's some wonderful, clean, gorgeous products that are well sourced and environmentally sound. So you
Wow.
could find good things there too. If you have any questions, just let me know. But thank you.
That's amazing. You're amazing. So
Yeah.
my question for you that came to me while you're sharing your music
Oh,
is, so if for your year 2025,
yeah.
what would the name of your song be? To share
Oh,
what your 2025 is showing up for you and what you're manifesting. As a manifester in human design, what is the name of your song?
Free Soul. And I actually wrote a song called Free Soul, but that's what's coming to me.
Oh,
And a lot of those, thank you for asking. A lot of the songs that I've done is just like, it's like a play project. And
yeah.
I could take a lot of things to the next level. Again, I do spread myself thin and I'm in, and so, and I'm happy with doing that. But yeah, I will, I'd be happy to share a couple pieces that I wrote with my son that are fun. And but Free Soul would be the name of the song.
Ah,
What would the name of your song be?
oh my gosh. Crazy Wisdom, just like the name of the
Ooh, isn't that a
the
good name?
magazine that you had. When you shared the name of that magazine, I'm like, "Oh, yeah, Crazy Wisdom." And I think what that means
Mm,
for me is not
mm,
crazy, but
mm.
just, like, outside of the box, like,
Right.
not logical wisdom, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
just, like, crazy, cosmic, like, I think about, like, even my backdrop for this season, it's a little bit the same as last time, but it's like, it's just, just
Mhm, mhm,
out there
mhm.
wisdom. Like, don't drown your angel wings or your butterfly wings, and don't let your environment do it either. I think that it's now is the time to just go big,
Yeah,
go big,
yeah,
go
absolutely.
crazy. Yeah.
And I love that your background is cosmic. The name of our band that I was in Michigan, which I sing with when I go back, is called Cosmic Flavors.
There you
Cosmic
go.
Flavor. And there's a song can share with you that is
Yeah.
really outside of the box. That this woman who I was singing with is a singer-songwriter, like professionally trained. She wrote a song for me to sing. I'll send it to you. It is it's a bit out there. I'm not going to put it on your website though, or anything like that. But
Oh, amazing. I love
thank
it.
you.
I
You
love
are
you so
such
much.
an amazing soul. What a
Oh,
joy you are. And thank you for honoring me the way, and so many others the way you do. It's really,
oh my
really
goodness.
meaningful.
It means the world to me to be able to share your heart with these beautiful souls that are here. Either whenever they find the episode is always the perfect time, and I'm excited to see you again, either at another Kyle Cease event because I'm itching. I know you're just caught back from one, but we're not far from each other. Being that I'm just here in Mexico, just down the street from California.
Oh,
I'm just excited to see
I
you again soon. It's
I so
amazing.
want to see you again and plan some time, and let's definitely do that. I'd
You
love
bet.
it.
Awesome. Well, Cynthia, thank you so much for sharing your heart on the Lucy Smiles Living Room podcast. And I just want to say to my amazing, amazing, amazing audience that it's my dream and it's my mission to do what I can to help you to follow the magic that ignites your inner essence. And it looks different for everyone. So I hope that just if any of our conversation today with the beautiful Cynthia allows you to take some
Mhm.
time to reflect on your own soul, on your own inner essence, and maybe also to take some time to reflect on your own environment. What little things can you do to shift the perspective of how you could be kinder to yourself as we're moving into 2025? And if this beautiful episode conversation resonates, and if there's someone on your heart that you believe needs to hear our conversation, I would be so honored if you could share this, leave a comment, and we will catch you next time. Thank you so much. Thank you, Cynthia.
Oh, oh, thank you so much. Mhm.
Friends, thank you so much for tapping into another episode of Lucy Smiles Living Room Podcast. I'm so grateful for your energy and your time today. If you'd like to connect with me further, you can find me on my website at lucysmiles.com, or you can follow me on Facebook and Instagram. My handle is at IamLucySmiles.com. If you're ready to dive in deeper, I do have a free guidebook, Follow the Magic That Ignites Your Inner Essence, on my website. So follow along to send an email to me, and you can sign up for my free weekly intuitive messages. I truly appreciate you listening and giving your energy and your feedback. It is so important to me to know that some of these conversations are really touching the souls of those out there ready to really dive in deep to your inner essence, to reflect on ways that you can move forward with more strength, more tenacity, a bigger vision for your life, and also to remind yourself that you're not alone. I'm always open to hearing any comments, any feedback, and also what else you would like to hear and who else you would like to hear from on the Lucy Smiles Living Room podcast. So please feel free to email me directly, lucy@lucysmiles.com. And I'm also really excited for those who have been working alongside me with my intuitive mentorship program. So if you are interested in learning more about how to work with me directly for a one-on-one coaching session with intuitive mentorship, whether it is for career, business, relationships, anything in between, please also feel free to email me directly at lucy@lucysmiles.com. Until next time, keep following the magic that ignites your inner essence. And thank you again for everything that you have done to help support my community. And I cannot wait to connect with you further.